Hello, my name is Michael Sander, or as I'm known here in Eswatini, Pastor Mdu. I'm with the organization known as Comfort for Africa, and I wanted to share a devotional with you today. One of the most important verses in Comfort for Africa is this one from 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verses 3 and 4. It says, "Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, Father of mercies and the God of all comfort. He comforts us in all of our affliction, so that we may be able to comfort those who are in any kind of affliction through the comfort we ourselves receive from God." A lot of us as pastors, we hear that part that says, so that we may be able to comfort those who are in any kind of affliction, because we really have a heart to help people who are suffering. But today, I want to focus on the portion that says, He comforts us in all of our affliction. Even the Apostle Paul was acknowledging that he had affliction and he needed God's comfort. Today's devotion is called Caring for the Caregiver, and it's really for you, the pastor, that I want to share these thoughts today. First of all, I want to tell you about something that you may have heard of and you may not have. It's something called trauma. The Bible Society has a series on trauma healing, and in it we define trauma as a heart wound or a wound of the emotion. Whenever something tragic happens, people's feelings, their emotions can be wounded, and it can lead them to have feelings of intense fear or helplessness or hopelessness or even horror. And as pastors, people come to us with those stories. They come and tell us about how they've lost a family member, or how they can't afford to pay school fees because their business has gone under, or their home has been damaged in a flood. And we hear these stories again and again. As pastors, we've been going to funerals, and some pastors have go to a different funeral every week because of the COVID pandemic. And because of that, we as pastors experience what's known as secondary trauma. Secondary trauma is when we see or hear about someone else's traumatic experience and we begin to have some trauma symptoms ourselves. There are some signs that you may be experiencing secondary trauma. You could be feeling angry or sad or tired or irritable. You could be having trouble sleeping or even becoming sick yourself. You might be having problems with relationships, maybe quarreling with your wife or your kids or with other members of your family or even people you work with. Sadly, in times like this, we can also be questioning the truth about our faith, questioning God's goodness or even his power, and being tempted to believe the lies of the enemy. And sometimes, when we're experiencing secondary trauma, we can even resent those who need our help for coming to us and laying yet another burden down in front of us. As pastors, we face many difficulties. Some of you are caring for too many people and you feel overwhelmed. And because those people are spread out and the churches aren't meeting, you're caring for them remotely through WhatsApp or through a telephone counseling session. Some of us find that we enjoy being needed and we find it very difficult to stop even when we're feeling overwhelmed. Sometimes we become the object of other people's anger. They're angry at God, they're angry at their circumstances, and when they sit down with you as the pastor, that anger gets focused right on you. Sometimes when we're counseling, we may learn things that we are obligated to report, instances of abuse or other circumstances that we legally and morally have to report to authorities. And often we face unreasonable expectations as pastors. People want us to do more than we probably can do. And sometimes we are led to neglect taking care of ourselves or even our family. And this can lead to a serious problem, especially with our children, a resentment towards God and towards the church for taking their father away when their father has time to help other people with their problems, but doesn't seem to have time for them. All of these things can happen when a pastor is feeling overwhelmed. And the circumstances we're in are circumstances that can lead to that very sort of problem. We can be experiencing a lot of secondary trauma. And so I have three suggestions for you of some things that we can do as pastors that can help us through secondary trauma. First is that we accept and acknowledge our own feelings before God, acknowledging that we feel angry or we feel overwhelmed or that we feel depressed or that we just feel sad. Psalm 130, verses 1 to 2 says, "Out of the depths I call to you, Lord. Lord, listen to my voice. Let your ears be attentive to my cry for help. We can call out to God from the depths of our feeling. God's not overwhelmed by our emotion. God is the rock upon which we can stand. And so we can cry out to him from the depths, and we can know that he's going to listen to us and heed our cry for help. The second thing I want to encourage you to do is take time to rest and refresh your body and soul. This is really important that we do this. We need to get enough rest at night. We need to take a Sabbath. We need to feed our body good food. And we also need to refresh our soul. We need to spend time in the Word. We need to spend time in prayer. You know, as pastors, we're kind of like a sharp knife, right? We can be used for all kinds of things that are helpful. But if we start to get dull, sometimes you need to take some time and just sharpen that knife. And, you know, that's not wasted time. That's time spent getting the knife ready so it's more effective. As pastors, we need to take the time to rest and refresh ourselves so that we're ready to help the people in our congregations that are going to come to us for help. When Jesus sent his apostles out to preach the word, they came back and they reported to him all that they had done and taught. And it says in Mark chapter 6, verses 30 and 31, that Jesus said to them, "Now come away by yourselves to a remote place and rest for a while." For many people were coming and going, and they did not even have time to eat. Pastors, do you ever feel like you don't even have time to take care of the basic needs of eating and taking care of yourself? Jesus said this to his apostles, and he's saying this to you, apostles of God. Come away to a remote place. Rest for a while. Rest in Jesus. Rest with Jesus so that you can be refreshed in your spirit and go back to your ministries. And the last thing is we need to be able to share the burden that we have. By sharing the burden, what we're doing is we're fulfilling the law of Christ. Paul says this in Galatians chapter 6, verse 2. Carry one another's burdens. In this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. And what is the law of Christ? It's to love one another. So, pastors, pray for one another, carry one another's burdens. I pray that each one of you will find someone that you can confide in, whether it's your wife or another pastor or maybe an elder at your church, someone that you can confide in who can help carry your burden and pray for you. And in so doing, they can fulfill the law of Christ to love you. Because we're all supposed to love one another. And even pastors need to be loved and have their burdens carried with them. Well, this devotion was adapted from the book Healing the Wounds of Trauma. It was lesson 7, Caring for the Caregiver. If you'd like more information about trauma healing, or if you'd just like to discuss anything in this devotion, please email me at pastormdu@outlook.com. And God bless you.